trying to rotate the camera, make sure we're not missing out on, like, treasure boxes or whatever. Or any of the destructible pseudo treasure boxes. Yeah, what do you call those things anyways? Like, for instance, this rotting corpse. Like, what is this? Like, what is this considered? It's not a treasure box, but it's something that you interact with that always is going to give you items. Or not. I mean, it's all RNG based. And the only other thing that they ever contain is usually traps. What do you call them? Nice, we get some better armor. Interactables? Because that's not really, I don't know. Number one, that word is like really pithy. That's a pithy ass word, man. But the other thing too is it's fairly ambiguous because, you know, anything that you can interact with would be considered an interactable. And, you know, given the context that we're specifically trying to mean it in, I mean, you would absolutely want to be specific. So, I don't know. I've always wondered that. What do you call those things? Like, even in Diablo 2, like the barrels that you can break, like the sarcophagi and like the loose floor tiles and let's see here, like loose rocks and like loose stumps and stuff. Like, what do you call those things? There's got to be a term. Pseudo treasure box. We are going to backtrack because I want to make sure that we get this this other side of this place. Just get it now instead of having to backtrack all the way over like later. God, our weapon is pretty garbage. Oh, you know what? We actually have a level up here. So let's get up to level 15 first of all. Let's get Blight Fiend, because Blight Fiend is pretty awesome. And I think I'm going to actually straight up put up 2 points into Ray Skeletons, because I want them to be a little bit more beefy. We want the Blight Fiend. So, unmoved by the noxious fumes of decay, conjure forth an abomination made of corpses and rotting filth to rise up from the earth and subdue your enemies. Only one Blight Fiend can be summoned at any one time. So we do actually get additional Blight Fiends, by the way. Am I, like, tripping out here? Now, I swear to God, because in my test play before, like, there was an ability to actually, like, summon multiple Blight Fiends, and I could have swore it actually showed you, like, how many in total you could actually summon. And I'm not seeing it on here. Huh. That's really strange. I have no idea. In my test campaign, I took Unstable Anomaly because I was really unsure of what it actually did. And my problem is with In Grim Dawn is that there are a lot of skills here that are really fucking ambiguous. Like, I just don't really understand what they do. And you're talking to, like a veteran Diablo action RPG player that have been playing these games for years and years and years, and I really did my hardcore research into a viable Diablo 2 alternative, like, back in the day. Like, and I'm saying this because in the meeting I'm saying it is because I'm not, like, ignorant towards the processes and, like, how these skills and things should interact. The problem is that a lot of these skills are so fabulously, like, under-labeled. There's just not enough information about them. For instance, Unstable Anomaly doesn't tell you certain critical pieces of information that you're only going to find out if you actually take the skill. Is that basically what this means is that your Blight Fiend is going to be... Normally, like, if I summon a Blight Fiend right now, he's a permanent pet until it dies or until I, like, bump up the skill or whatever else. Like, but it's going to stay otherwise. This is going to make your Blight Fiend basically suicide bomb and blow up, and I hate it. And I hated the skill, and I'm glad it was done during a test run. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that there was a point in my test campaign where it actually showed you how many of these things you could actually recruit. Summon. So God damn, it still doesn't tell me. So, you know what? I'm just going to summon a couple. Once its cooldown disappears, we're going to see if we can actually summon a second Blight Fiend. Then we do have our attribute points too, by the way. Here we go. Not sure what... I think we should just straight up do physique. Actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off. The reason why is because I want to bank a couple of points because it's still early in the campaign where I feel like, you know, using your attribute points to equip a certain piece of gear is probably better off for you to do in the beginning than later on. Because normally, you know, what you'd probably want to do is pump most of your skill points into physique and then probably get into a couple into spirit, and then that would be pretty much your build throughout the game. Oh wait, fucking Blight Fiend died. So did my Blight Fiend like straight up just blow up? Because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what just happened. All right, so there's the cooldown. Yeah, I'm only allowed to get one. Oh, so there you go. That's what it is. So this skill clearly states that you get a 3 summon limit. So that's the trade-off. Okay, because then they live for 12 seconds. You get more of them that you can... you can only spawn one of them at a time, but you get a 3 of them total that you can summon. But they only live for 12 seconds. The problem with this skill that I found, I figure like if you were going to do it, like you could really maximize this skill if you had the gear for it. If you could straight up spec for it, this would be phenomenal. Because basically what it does is it makes these guys like just fucking explode. They explode into do huge, massive like burst AoE damage. But the problem is that the cooldown for summoning a Blight Fiend sucks, and you really would have to focus your gear on cooldown reduction to make this viable. Because you'd be able to summon 3 of them, but the problem is by the time you're able to summon a second Blight Fiend, your first Blight Fiend only has like 2 seconds left before it blows up. That's why it sucks. Okay. Not sure if this is the exact place that we really want to go. Or if I wanted to actually continue to the upstairs area. Gotta make sure that I always have my 4th skelly. So I have read a couple of actual really good in-depth builds. Here we go. There's our first offhand. Like really good magical offhand. It's an actual book instead of the fetish. So we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep my hands on that until I find like a viable one-handed firearm. Anyways, I was reading like some really good builds. Some really, really good in-depth, like hardcore theory crafting builds for a pet build. And I feel like if you're really going to maximize this build, even if you weren't going to like completely min-max everything, I think this build kind of requires quite a bit of micromanagement on the battlefield, because you're going to have to constantly kite, especially in the harder difficulties. So that is something that I'm going to have to really be aware of once we get into the harder content, or the harder difficulties themselves. I do kind of like the way the terminology, the lexicon inside the official Grim Dawn forums are. Basically, it's just like a hold the right mouse button attack. Where you assign like your big mega skill that you can just sit there and spam over and over and over again. and then just assign it to your right mouse button. And anytime you see an enemy, you just click and hold, and that's pretty much your entire gameplay experience. Yeah, wasn't really looking to adopt one of those strategies. But then again, like, there was some of this stuff where I'm just like, holy shit, that's quite a bit involved there. I don't know if I really want to commit myself to that much micro. Like, and I am the guy that min-maxes and micro shit. Absolutely. Oh yes. I mean, that's who I am just in real life, just with, you know, regular mundane daily shit. You know, since I haven't really played very much at Grim Dawn, I just wanted this entire campaign to be kind of a fun, new campaign for me, and new in sense that like, you know, like, I'm gonna really experience everything for the first time, since I haven't really gotten that far in the actual campaign itself before. That I feel like this campaign is even more special because it's kind of got that whole, like, I'm new to this game, so we're just going to kind of wing it feel to it. Because I don't know, I just didn't really want my campaign, or my character for that matter, to be, you know, very strictly, you know, adhering to some kind of pre-built structure, you know, that somebody else made. And they spent an awful lot of time maximizing and minimizing things. I don't know. I just don't want to do it. I just want to create my own thing. As a matter of fact, I was looking up some builds that were supposed to be considered like either the hardest or the shittiest. And I have to say, just, you know, going off that tangent, that the community cannot make up their mind about what the hardest or the shittiest builds are. In general, it seems to be the Apostate, which is a combination of Necromancer and Inquisitor, which are both of the DLC Ashes of Malmouth classes. And then I think somebody else said that, oh shit, what was it? I want to say it was the Defiler, maybe, which I think is the Necromancer and the Demolitionist. If I remember correctly, I think that might have been the second one. But I know Apostate was one of them. And it looked like most people's opinions were pretty much based upon whether or not there was endgame gear for them. So apparently, there's a lot of, like, what Diablo 2 had, in the sense that, you know, they were, like, class-specific gear, right? Shit, we need to get some more skellies. So, you know, like, there were certain sets that were tailored to certain classes. Like, there was the Bolcathos set that was more of a barbarian set. You had the Mortal King set, which was another barbarian set. You had the Mavina set, that was a Amazon set. And then there was a Tal Rasha, was your your sorcerer set, you know, and so on and so forth, right? Well, they have that sort of thing here in Grim Dawn as well.
My inventory is full.
Oh, bollocks. So what is this blue thing? Is that my first? It's an epic ring. We're going to drop this motherfucker. I want to see what the way it sounds. Hold up. So we're going to scroll real quick, real far in. Oh, it doesn't make a sound? Oh. So I can't actually hear a drop noise for this thing, but I'm guessing it's more of a place noise. So this is my first epic item, epic or legendary item. I just wanted to test that other mod that I have, which is just, it changes the sound for epic and legendary items, the sound that they drop. But I don't think that there is a drop noise like there is in, say, Diablo 2. I think it's more like a place noise. I don't know. You guys tell me. Is that the normal noise, or is it really different? We can't even equip it yet. Let's see. What does it do? Bonus to all pets. Plus 8%. Absolutely. Since we are going to go for a pet build, I'm going to focus on pet stuff first, and then cooldown reduction. So we need a whole bunch of levels. We need to be level 14 for this, and 50 spirit. We already have the 50 spirit, and then some. Okay, we do have a whole bunch of other items over here, didn't we? All right, so let's go back home and pawn a bunch of the stuff. No, we're not far enough into the game yet where I feel comfortable filtering out the regular trashy white items. Not quite there yet.
See anything you like?
Let's go ahead and sell all this, all the white items first. Then generally I'll get rid of the stuff that I know I'm not going to use, like all of the melee items, the armor, all the stuff that I know that I would normally equip, but I know it's worse. I'll just hover over it just to make sure, and then combine everything. Okay.
Very good use.
You know what's going to end up happening is that I'm going to end up keeping some of these like offhand items, and then by the time I actually do find a one-handed weapon, like those offhand items are going to be so far outclassed.
Need stashed.
I've had that happen before, where you end up like getting an item that has like a level requirement where it's just like it's so far ahead that by the time you actually get to the level to equip that thing, that item is so far outclassed. What makes you wonder why the fuck it had that item requirement or that level requirement in the first place. Stupid. So I know that the scrap they stack, but we're gonna keep it in our inventory anyways. Let's see here. So we need level 14. It's gonna be a while before we're able to equip this, so we might as well just put it in our stash right now. We did finish completing a couple of these items here. Wait, that's a partial component. Yep. Okay, so oh, there we are. Polished emerald.
I'll hold on to that for you.
And then we'll go back and pick up the rest of our gear. What did we actually pick up? Shitty armor. Those are better gloves. And much better spalders. Actually, technically, I was going to say these things are more like pauldrons. So, for those that don't know, you know, once upon a time, I did a lot of stuff with the SCA. It's a group. It's a worldwide group, by the way, but I know it's big communities here in the United States, or at least that there were big communities. But I used to do the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism, and I was part of like a group of people that actually made armor, like straight up, like really made armor, like real metal armor and everything. No, there wasn't a forge, so it wasn't like we were actually doing like blacksmiths type stuff. But we were definitely shaping, cutting, polishing, and beating the hell out of some metal for armor. And I learned that shoulder armor, what you may find in video games, is spalders. Spalders are what you see where it'd be like a round cop, and then it would be segmented that comes down your arm. So it'd start off as here like a big round piece, and then it would come down. A pauldron, on the other hand, is basically like shoulder slash neck armor. It would be basically a piece that would maybe start at the top of the shoulder here that would come up to the neck. So it would be covering, say, from like the top of your breast through this portion of your between your shoulder and your neck, all the way to your scapular region, to your shoulder blade. That's basically what a pauldron is. And I've seen it in video games before, especially like, say, the Elder Scrolls series, like Morrowind. They had a really bad habit of just, you know, treating spalders the same thing as a pauldron when they're not. They're similar, but they're different. Although if you get into the point where you actually have a pauldron and a spalder equipped, is like really, I'm not sure what you call that, because there, if I'm not mistaken, there's not really very many examples of those. It seems like when it came to armor, I think it was pretty much one style or the other. Or not. Or it could be completely devoid of it. Yes, I once did the whole SCA stuff. I quickly got out of it. I did it for a while, and it just wasn't my scene, man. Some wacky stuff. Got another shrine here, so definitely want to offer up our 1 crystal. Get some goodies. Got another offhand here, a pretty ridiculous offhand. +1 to bone harvest. Cooldown reduction. This is like something that I would straight up like get an inferior one-handed firearm to equip because it's that awesome. I think the gloves that we have on are better, and the trousers that we have are better. So, but I'm not going to actually be using bone harvest, so maybe that's actually not going to really matter to me much. We are level 9, so we're 1 level away from actually choosing our secondary, right? So we don't have to actually spend our points. I could just hold on to them and then just wait for next level to dump it into occultist. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. You know, I think I'm going to do that. We're going to hold on to our points. There was nothing else I think I needed in here. The problem is that we're so far away from the actual waypoint itself that we'd have quite a bit of walking that we would have to do if we just straight up like went back to town and then used the waypoint to get to the closest point that we were kind of sort of at. We're just gonna have to backtrack. So I've been having this dilemma lately, and I've been noticing, you know, when I was looking at it through, I guess, a more academic lens, so to speak, it's funny that, like, some of the behaviors that I exhibit here in video games or in some of the other pursuits that I do, like, say, like reading books, are definitely ways of life that I choose to do in just my interpersonal life. Like, for instance, I'm having this dilemma because I recently bought a Nintendo Switch. I never really wanted to buy a modern console because I just don't like modern consoles, honestly. I just don't think they're worth it. They're expensive, and generally speaking, their video game lineup, their libraries are garbage. And with the increasing, like, I guess you could say, like, the multi-platform phenomenon of video games have basically ruined consoles, because consoles used to be like the type of thing where you'd want to play for specific games that you could only play on that console. Like back in the day, the old 16-bit era was a really good example of that, or even like the original PlayStation era were really good examples of that. You know, each system had its own exclusives that you could only play on that system, which made it more incentivized for people to buy their system so they could play those games specifically. And there hasn't been a lot of that in the history of consoles, like in the last couple generations. The PS3 era, it sucked. I have a PS3 because it's my woman's PS3, not because I previously owned it. But I haven't bought a straight up like console since PS2. Like, seriously. Because I think that a lot of the console exclusive console games were bullshit, were garbage. Or some of them were, they started off as console exclusive, but then they eventually got ported over to, you know, other systems, including PC. So it just didn't make sense to me to actually own a console. But lo and behold, Square Enix, always known as Squeenix, has once again partnered up with Nintendo, not exclusively, I mean on the whole, but just exclusively for this game, to produce a new game for the latest Nintendo console, the Switch, called Octopath Traveler. And listen, man, I was a die-hard Nintendo fanboy way back in the day, back when there was that whole like brand loyalty between Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Yeah, I was a Nintendo guy way back in those days. Oh yes, I was. And let me tell you something. It paid to be a Nintendo fan. There were so many, like, just heart-aching classic titles in the Super Nintendo library that, like, it just shaped who I was completely and who I am right now. That, like, when Octopath Traveler came along, I had to have it. I just had to. See, I got my hopes up before on previous attempts at, like, trying to recreate that whole 16-bit RPG era. Like with I Am Setsuna was one. There was another one that just came out on PC recently. Shit, I forget the name of it. But they really just haven't done it justice. But Octopath Traveler seemed, by all accounts, to be an authentic experience, hitting a lot of the right chords. So, oh, you want to know something? God damn it. It wasn't in the overworld. I could have just used my town portal to come back to town. Duh.
Any luck clearing out those sliths? People are starting to beg me for water. I don't know how many more times I can say it'll melt your guts before they just rush me and take it.
I've taken care of it.
Well done. Once I pump out the remaining poison water, the spring should be clean enough for drinking. I'll make sure to let people here know how much help you've been. They'll be grateful that they can get a drink without dissolving their intestines. One more thing. Take my rucksack. Useful for hauling back scrap or whatever else you come across. I'm too old for that stuff now.
Thank you. Glad to be of help. So we get 100 double crossing reputation points, which is good. 500 experience, and there we go. We completed the one quest that I was upgrading our inventory. So expands the size of our inventory. Fantastic. So we take a look now. We now have access to this other grouping over here. I don't remember if, or actually I don't really know. I remember seeing some videos that I could have swore there was additional stash or inventory tabs over here, but I could be wrong. I guess we'll have to discover that later on in the game.
Thanks for all your help. At least we can get a decent drink, even if that drink ain't a finger of whiskey.
My pleasure, sir. Okay, so we still need the 6 scrap to upgrade our bridge, but we don't really have to worry about that until, like, much later, so there's not really a big rush to do it. I think what we're going to do now is, first of all,
I'll give you a good price on what I've got left.
let's sell all the stuff that we're not going to use. Flame drinker ointment. Interesting. We will indeed buy the other scrap. If we really wanted to, we could buy a ring. I don't think I'm going to do that. If I'm not mistaken, sometimes they do actually have rare items, which are the green ones. The green weapons and armor.
Around.
Okay, so we're just going to drop some stuff off with the stash. Then I'll get back to my
Safe storage, no question.
my story. Oops. So honestly, if I mean, they're both so good, but this one even has bonus to pets, to their health. I just don't know, man. I just don't know what to say. It looks like I didn't complete any of the other components here.
I'll keep an eye on this.
Okay, so let's talk to Captain John Bourbon here, since he's changed his
Good,
location.
you're back. I've heard good things from both Kasparov and Barnabas. You're a real asset to this community.
Why, thank you.
One of my scouts came back with news making our next move clear. The dead are heavily concentrated in Burwich Village to the north, past the swamps of Whitemire. There must be a reason why. Perhaps the ethereal behind these attacks is there. We can't know for sure without investigating deeper.
I gotta unplug my phone here. It's all charged. So how can I help?
You've proven yourself quite resourceful thus far. Your ability to secure rift gates for human use could be a turning point in our situation. With all the activity around Burwich, there's bound to be a rift gate. If you can capture it, that will give us a solid foothold in the area.
How do I get to Burwich?
Follow the road north through Whitemire. Though in the current state of things, you'll likely have to leave the road behind well before you reach the village. Keep pressing north and you will eventually reach the outskirts of Burwich. It's surrounded by a palisade wall, so you will have to find a way inside. Once you've secured the rift gate, Return to Devil's Crossing.
I am ready. Okay, so we got our new quest. Presidential alert. This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed. Seriously? Seriously, man? Presidential alert? What the fuck? That sounds like some Big Brother kind of shit right there. So we completed the one quest with Captain John Bourbon. We got 150 Devil's Crossing reputation and 300 experience, which allowed us to gain a level. So first of all, let's take a look at our faction. So we're not exactly